Behind closed doors, Representative Jasmine Crockett read one name out loud, and in just 36 seconds, the First Lady reportedly lost her cool. What Melania was hiding might not just be personal, it could be national. It started with a message, Jasmine, almost deleted. It was late. Close to 11:30 p.m., she had just finished a tense interview on Capitol Hill about cyber intrusions linked to White House staff. Sitting in the back seat of her black Escalade, scrolling through emails, a flagged message popped up in her encrypted inbox. The subject line read, "They lied about the First Lady's trips. Check the logs." Jasmine narrowed her eyes. Normally, she'd delete it without opening, but something about the timing and how specific it was made her stop. Inside, there was no text. Just a single attachment, a zip file labeled FTL Restricted Access Logs 01. Beneath it, one line. "If you read this, you'll understand why I had to stay anonymous. The name you're looking for appears 4 times. Begin with Brussels. She downloaded it, but didn't open it until she got home to Arlington. Even then, she hesitated. It could be a setup, a fake, a trap. But it wasn't. The files were raw exports from the White House internal scheduling system, something she'd only seen once before, years ago, and even then they were heavily redacted. These weren't redacted, they were clean. The logs had timestamps down to the minute, listing official and private movements tied to Melania Trump, flights, accommodations, staff names, ID. Next to that column, in 4 entries, was a name, Dragan Petrovich. Jasmine had never heard of him, but he wasn't a chef, or an assistant, or a translator, and every time his name appeared, Secret Service logs were suddenly thin or missing. Grabbed her phone. "Julius," she said, calling her longtime aide. "I need you to get our cybersecurity guy to quietly check if this data is real." Even before confirmation, a part of her already knew it was. For international solo trips Melania had taken in the last 6 months, no alarms. No headlines, but each one touched cities linked to art transactions and diplomatic summits. Jasmine had been briefed on just last month. That wasn't coincidence. The next morning, her aide confirmed the logs were legit, but how the sender got them was still unclear. The system was accessible to only a few dozen high-level national security officials. This wasn't a random breach. It was deliberate. Controlled. Jasmine didn't sleep that night. She sat on her living room floor, sticky notes everywhere, connecting Melania's trips to separate international headlines, a museum heist in Prague, a frozen bank account in Geneva, a secret meeting between an art broker and a former foreign minister in Munich. Each time Dragan Petrovich was somewhere in the background by the 3rd night. Jasmine knew she had a choice: bury this and walk away, or bring it to the subcommittee on White House security breaches. Going public meant accusations of starting a political firestorm. But Jasmine Crockett had never backed away from a fight just because it was uncomfortable. The hearing room was packed that Thursday morning. Cameras, reporters, aides, everyone buzzing. Jasmine sat at the long wooden table, her binder thick with documents. She knew the moment she spoke the name Dragan Petrovich into the microphone, the temperature in the room would change. Paul Landers, the senior committee chair, tapped his pen. "Representative Crockett, you have the floor." Jasmine leaned in. "Mr. Chairman, members of the committee." Over the last 6 months, the First Lady's travel schedule has included 4 unpublicized international trips. All 4 had irregular security logs, and in each case, one name appears: Dragan Petrovich. The murmurs started immediately. Some staffers whispered to each other, others started typing furiously on their phones. Paul looked over his glasses. "And who is Mr. Petrovich?" Jasmine didn't look away. "We're still confirming details. But initial checks suggest he has connections to both high-value art sales and Eastern European political networks." A few committee members shifted in their chairs. The cameras clicked non-stop. Monica Rivera, one of the committee's most aggressive questioners, spoke up. "Are you suggesting the First Lady is involved in something illegal?" Jasmine's tone stayed calm. "I'm suggesting that the logs and the missing Secret Service records raise serious questions. Questions that could involve national security." Somewhere in the back, a reporter whispered, "This is going to blow up by noon." By the time the hearing wrapped, Jasmine knew it already had. Hashtags with Dragan and Melania were trending. Photos of Melania's past solo trips, Some in evening gowns, some in casual outfits, were being reposted with captions like, "What was she really doing?" Meanwhile, at the White House, Alan Briggs, the press secretary, was scrambling. He walked into the communications room with a short briefing folder. "We need to shut this down fast," he told his deputy. "Stick to 2 lines. The trips were personal and no further comment." But the reporters didn't buy it. That afternoon at the daily press briefing, the first 3 questions were about Petrovich. Alan stuck to the script, but every no comment only made the story hotter. In a downtown D.C. coffee shop, Glenn Ryan, a conservative radio host, recorded a live reaction for his followers. "I'll tell you what this is. It's a setup to smear the First Lady. They don't have proof, just innuendo." Across the city, Lisa Adkins, a political satirist, posted a meme, Melania stepping off a plane in sunglasses, with the words "International Mystery Woman" in bold gold letters. It went viral in under an hour. That night, Jasmine sat on her couch, watching the coverage. Every major network was looping her clip from the hearing. On one screen, commentators were debating whether Petrovich was a spy, a broker, or just a coincidence. On another, an investigative journalist claimed Petrovich had been spotted in the VIP section of an art auction in Monaco. Just 2 weeks ago, Jasmine knew one thing: this wasn't going away. By Monday morning, the heat had turned into fire. News vans lined the streets near Jasmine's office. She had to slip in through the back entrance to avoid the swarm of microphones. Inside, her aide Julius was already waiting with a stack of printouts. "You're going to want to see this," he said. The first page was a grainy surveillance, still from a private security feed in Brussels. It showed Petrovich, tall, dark coat, sunglasses, stepping into a side entrance of a luxury hotel. A red time stamp matched one of Melania's private nights abroad from the logs. The second page was worse. It was an invoice from an art gallery in Zurich, $14.2 million for a single painting, purchased through a holding company that had no public directors. The payment cleared 2 days after the Brussels photo. Jasmine looked up. "Do we know who's behind the holding company?" "Not yet," Julia said, "but it roots through to shell corporations, one in Cyprus, one in Panama." She rubbed her temples. Classic laundering pattern. Later that day, Jasmine met quietly with 2 members of the Oversight Committee. She laid out the documents, the timelines, the payments. One of them, a veteran congressman, leaned back and whistled softly. "You're poking at something big. Here, Crockett, the kind of thing that makes enemies." "I already have enemies," she said flatly. That night, the story took another turn. A former Secret Service agent, speaking anonymously to an investigative podcast, claimed that, on at least 2 of Melania's trips, certain parts of the security detail were compartmentalized, meaning not everyone was told where she was going or who she was meeting by Tuesday morning. Cable news was running with that quote. One anchor said, "If true, that's not normal. You don't keep parts of the detail in the dark unless you're hiding something." Meanwhile, online detectives were doing what they do best. On Reddit and Twitter, threads popped up comparing Petrovich's known travel history with global art theft cases. One user posted side-by-side photos of him and a man leaving the scene of a robbery in Vienna, back in 2018. In the middle of all this, Jasmine got another encrypted email. Same random Swiss domain as before. The subject line, "You're getting close. Watch your back." She stared at it for a long time before closing her laptop. By Thursday, the White House could no longer ignore it. Alan Briggs stepped up to the podium for the daily briefing. His usual calm look replaced with something tighter. "Let me be clear," he said. "The First Lady's trips were entirely personal. Any suggestion otherwise is baseless and politically motivated." Reporters shouted follow-up questions. Then why is there no complete Secret Service record? Who is Drogan Petrovich? Alan didn't answer. He just repeated, "No further comment," and walked out. That clip alone played on every news channel for the rest of the day. On social media, hashtags like #PetrovichGate and #MELANIA files were racking up millions of views. Political commentators from both sides jumped in. Some claimed Jasmine was on a witch hunt. Others praised her for having the guts to go after something this sensitive. Then came the bombshell. Late Friday evening, an investigative team from a major newspaper dropped A report Petrovich was linked to at least 3 unsolved art thefts in Europe, all involving pieces worth over $10 million. And in each case, the stolen art resurfaced quietly at private auctions within months. Buried in the article was one more. Detailed flight records showed Petrovich arriving in the same cities as Melania's unlisted trips. Within 24 hours of her arrival, when Jasmine read it, she knew there was no way to spin that as coincidence. That weekend, she got a call from a restricted number. A low voice said, "If you keep pushing this, you'll find out why the last person who tried stopped." Then the line went dead. She sat in her kitchen for a long time, staring at the phone. By Monday, the Oversight Committee had scheduled a closed-door meeting to decide whether to open a full investigation. Jasmine knew it wouldn't be easy. The White House would fight it. Powerful people with deep pockets would fight it. But as she walked into that meeting, binder in hand, she thought of the logs, the photos, the anonymous warnings, and the possibility that this was bigger than any political feud. If she was right, exposing it might not just shake the First Lady's image. It could shake the country.